But you go to client side. So from home, you go to the client side back home, right? And you can claim taxi back and forth. In fact, it got so bad. I had a friend that said, I'm leaving at 6 p.m. to take the train home because I want to be with people. So he purposely went on to peak hour traffic and just said, oh, people, oh my God, people.
To Wise and Shine, I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, as Chief Budget Babe. Today we're going to talk about a really interesting and controversial topic. And to facilitate that discussion, we have brought along two experts from two different fields. Some of you might recognize him, this young-looking guy, who actually has been in the scene for really long. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi everyone, I'm Adrian. I am my day job is in marketing, and I also do podcasts. I'm a co-host at Work It by CNA, and I also do a bit of commentary related to work.
And he's quite a figurehead in... Yeah,
quite a bit.
A lot.
I see articles floating around, so yes.
And fun fact about Adrian, he is quite a figurehead in HR. So for those of you in your corporate life, you deal with HR quite a bit. You may have seen him at some conferences or speaking on this topic. So yeah, the best person to talk about what we're going to dive into. And here we have
Rakesh, tech sales.
I think they know you, but they just don't know that you are in tech sales.
That's true. I've never said that.
You've never talked about
that's
it.
true. You know me from multiple podcasts from TFCs. And so I'm here to talk about tech sales.
Finally, right? Finally, right? I'm taking time to talk about what I'm good at, right? That's my OG. That's where I made my money first before I could invest, right? So I think today's topic is really about should sales be your first job, right? I think that's the overarching discussion. And there is a genesis. Actually, Dawn was the one that pitched the topic.
Yes,
right? So what is the genesis?
Topic.
Why are we talking about this?
So recently, if you guys have been on social media, there was this
everyday
viral
people
post.
on social media.
But maybe not
social media?
Which, right?
These days so many.
Might be more explicit, right? So many platforms now, right?
My goodness.
So for you guys who are on Lemonade, if you're not, don't worry, it's a platform for the younger folks. So even I feel very out of place there.
At first, I really feel out of place. Then the second line for the younger folks.
I didn't even know Lemonade until you said
I
this.
feel very out of place.
The drop off is there.
But the truth is, Lemonade is full of people in their late teens. So it's like 18, 19 and the 20s, So anyone who is 30 and above is rare. And there was this viral post by someone in his 20s who basically shared that he made his first million in his 20s by doing tech sales. Yeah, and that's basically his secret and his advice. He said, if you want to be rich as a young person, and he shared about how, he wasn't necessarily the smartest in school. He didn't outperform his peers or anything. But when it comes to money, outperform now. And the secret is tech sales.
Yeah, sob stories. I always got stories. I come from humble background. Life was hard. And then I climbed the ladder. And then now today So, Rob, is it possible, right? Tech sales, make $1 million.
I mean, make $1 million. Obviously, how long you want to stay there for, I guess that's a big question, right?
Yeah. But I think the genesis was 20s, right? So
20 or 10 years,
You can assume 10 years, or maybe
job.
So 5-6 years.
Maybe I think 5-6
7
years. More accurate guesstimation. Yeah, let's see.
Could be possible. Yeah. But it really depends on.
See, we just found out that there's a millionaire on set, right?
Yeah, tech sales are 1 million.
It could very well be possible, right? But it depends on a few different factors, obviously, right? So, for example, he probably worked his socks off, without a doubt, right? And people who work their socks off also must be effective, so they need to know where to put their energy in. And a lot of us in tech sales are working constantly, right? There is no breaks. It's the ugly side that you don't actually see. You only see how much you make. And that's what a lot of people look at, right? But you don't have a life. If you're on vacation, you have to answer your phone, right? If you have to, take care of your kids or at dinner and your client calls you because they want to close a deal, you got to pick that up, right? So it's a lot of trade-offs. And I think we're very myopic in just looking at just pure rewards and pure money.
I think there's a lot of interest now because tech is the hot thing, right? Especially during the pandemic where tech was just rising.
Actually, I'm going to challenge that. Is tech really the good thing or hot thing right now? It was, But since the drop in late 2022, as we've all seen it in market updates and other investments that we have made, is that really the hottest thing right now?
Tech
That's the
winter,
question.
right? And
Correct.
all the waves of retrenchment. And I think the tech sales people are also affected. I've seen a lot of companies announce in their earnings calls that they are laying off a lot of their sales workforce and relying on like other distribution channels or word of mouth or referrals to close the deals instead of paying their salespeople that money as well. So
Word of mouth means I got no budget.
I won't name which company.
Word of
but
mouth means
hey, that was
sorry,
a
my marketing budget has gone to zero.
legit disclosure of all the earnings calls of the companies. Okay.
Word of mouth. No budget, say no budget. Lah, say. Oh my
Cannot.
goodness.
Must spin
It's
correctly.
Oh yeah,
Business lingo.
corporate
Ah,
speak.
correct,
Corporate.
yes.
Yeah. Don't expose
Yeah,
lah.
okay. Sorry. You can still sponsor us, right? But you find budget. But yeah, what is your hot take, Adrian? Like work, like sales is a first job and all that.
Firstly, I think you do have to put in the hours, just like what you said. You look at some of the Grab drivers, right? They can also make 5 figures, but you drive non-stop every day for 7 days. So that is entirely possible. But I think it also means that if you're willing to put in the hours, I think there's also this correlation that you probably is good in it, right? You wouldn't be Michael Jordan and play 20 hours of basketball a day if you suck at it. It just doesn't make sense. But I think for me, my first job was actually more in customer service. Then I did sales because I set up my own recruitment business. And of course, when you're in sales, the numbers do grow exponentially because when you close a deal, you got commission in and sometimes things will compound. Sometimes you get a major deal in, so on and so forth. It does drive things a bit faster as compared to, let's say, if I continue my customer service job. Every month is just a stagnant amount. If I'm lucky, okay lah, this year I get 2 months bonus. Oh, okay, but you're still way off the mark from the $1 million.
That's what Shing Xiong give how many months? Was it
6 months, right? Or during COVID? Or was it 12 months? Was it?
How many months? I know it was
I'm
quite
not
a
sure.
lot.
I know
Evergreen was the one of the 52
Evergreen,
month or something.
Yes.
That's crazy.
SIA this year also gave quite a lot.
Serious. How
right?
many? 2 months.
Singapore Airlines.
It's all relative, but yes. Yeah, you're saying?
No, and I think that's a really good point. That he brought up, right? It's not only the number of hours of work; it's also the fact of, is this what you want to do? And a lot of it in sales, I honestly believe, is mindset. Right? If you are looking at sales, whether it's your first job, second job, or third job, I actually haven't answered the question, but I'll get to that. It's really about that mindset. The mindset that I feel what I try and emulate is the fact that I'm not actually working, I'm breathing. So it's as good as going somewhere and you're just breathing, right? You're doing everything in the day and you're breathing. And if that's the way you take a look at sales, you're not actually working. Because you could be at a studio at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But
don't need to say
at the
what
same
time we Oh, where?
But I could be running a demo at 12 a.m. Right? Or I could be running my sales cycle at 12 a.m. And either way, you've got to breathe. So I think if you look at it that way and you have this sort of mindset, you could be in a good position to go into sales.
I think also hinge on the personality, right? I mean, if you just broadly look at people who are more extrovert, introvert. So within my team back then, obviously the more extroverted one works very well and almost effortlessly in driving their numbers, driving their sales. But even for me, I'm an introvert. So ask me to talk to clients sometimes. I take so long to prepare and so much longer to decompress after the conversation.
Decompress, oh my God.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Decompress.
It's true. So then, if that's the case, then don't do sales.
No, exactly.
Right?
I think
Don't do sales. End of discussion.
And
Next episode.
And I think if we make it a little bit bigger, right? It's not just about sales. It's the fact that it's uncapped. Your salary is uncapped. Right? And maybe if you're looking at sales, try and get a sales job that the salary is uncapped, because I know a few sales jobs that the salary is capped as well, or your commission is capped as well, right? Doesn't quite make sense.
I think that was one of the points in that post whereby the trick to making such a huge income is to go for a job where the money you earn is uncapped. And hence he was recommending, and especially since he himself went to tech sales, made $1 million, very attractive clickbait title, ta-da! Everyone should go and do sales to make 1 million like me. Right? But I guess going back to what Adrian you said earlier, how much then should a person disconnect or do something that goes against their personality or even try to change that personality if they want to chase that financial gains?
I think it's going to be very, very tough. Now, obviously, for the extrovert, when we talk about sales job, it's a given. You play up to your strength. So I also have a friend who succeeded really well in sales. So his first job was, or rather his earlier job was in shipbroking. And made millions because he's like 0.1% of the revenue of the ship, which is a lot of money multiplied by the number of ships. So he made a lot of money on that. But it's very easy for him because he has the gift of the gap. He can really talk. Even when he was Sec 3, he can sell koyo to the teacher already.
Koyo say, right? Go and look for that koyo friend that you have. Recruit them to your team, right? Today I got to think, who's the koyo friend? And now it's me. Okay, come.
But I think for the introverts or maybe the ambiverts, it's obviously very enticing, especially in our very expensive city, to try to earn as much money as possible. But if you need to change your character, if you have to put on a mask at work every day, you have to change your personality, behave very differently, I think it's just so much painful that no amount of money can compensate you for that.
Or do you feel like this is an afterthought? You know, in the sense that once you really got it, then all these things start to matter, right? In the sense that when you're in your 20s, you're nothing, you know,
just suffer through the pain.
chong only lah, right? Say just go, right? But then eventually when you your life start to settle in, then these thoughts start to develop. It's like, hey, why was so hard? You know, like why go through so much pain? Is there a context
there is some
that
validity to it, especially at the earlier days where I guess younger people, and even when I was much younger, we all tend to compare very blatantly, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how much you make, how much I make. Hey, I just took xia, you know, I just
so
come
much
with a
for
new car.
HR say cannot compare. Right? HR always say don't compare. Right?
Do not disclose your salary to
do not
fellow
disclose your
employees.
salary. Wow.
And there will always be that peer pressure. And I do remember when my shipbroking friend was very successful, it also seeded in me, hey, maybe shipbroking is a interesting industry, you know.
Yeah.
Then I also heard about oil trading. Hey, maybe oil trading is another one to consider. So I did try that. But I do detect certain, at least in my opinion, red flags during the interview process, during more interaction that I think even if I join, I probably will be out in 3 months because I just cannot take that kind of cutthroat dog-eat-dog kind of environment that is in a way necessary for a sales department to flourish sometimes.
Yeah. Sales people got one quan.
Yeah.
There's a pattern. When you look at them, there's a pattern. And
What's the pattern?
It
What's
works.
this pattern?
This like cutthroat, you know, but mask it as very friendly.
Is that true?
Sales people,
Check with the salesperson
Is
here.
it true?
Yes.
You know me for quite a while.
Yes, right. No, man, there are many ways to do sales, but the salespeople that I've met so far, they all have a certain
Got
vibe
say
to them.
one,
Got say one, right? The way they do things is straight, very fast, into the point, you know, and then cannot lah. Next, cannot. Next. Man, it's important, right? If you're in sales, right, you're gonna get more rejection than yeses, right? So if you don't train yourself to have that or naturally have those things, then you fall out lah. Right?
Actually, I will say that I trained that, right? I started off by taking everything and anything. And then as you progress and as you learn, and this is where I feel anybody can do sales, because if you keep at it for so long and you keep going at it, you will learn now, right? It's just how it is. And now it's not even about the pay anymore. If you think about it, if you've been in sales for a while, it's about your attainment and it's about time. And really, that's what you're fighting for on a day-to-day basis, right? As a salesperson, it's not about what's the big deal I'm going to close. It's the time you have to close as many deals as you have or as you can. And that is the other angle of sales that people need to look at, which is why you're working constantly, which is why you need all the time in the world, which is why sometimes you don't even go sleeping that long, right? And you pick up and you carry on the next day. So that's also another angle of sales that a lot of people don't quite see.
But back to this post, right? I think people may also want to take note of the timing of this post.
Yes.
Because we were talking just before this recording, last year was a great year for a lot of tech businesses.
yes.
And during my time, just before Lehman Brothers, any Tom, Dick and Harry can be a property agent. Any Tom, Dick and Harry can be a super headhunter.
Correct.
Why? Because the tide is so high. You naturally will just go all the way to the top one. But in an average out context, would you be able to actually achieve that regularity? That's something you have to ask yourself. If I ask you today, go and sell crypto, do you want to do it?
You better make sure.
But 3 years ago can.
Anyone can, right? Anyone. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
But I mean, coming back to the question at hand, right? Should it be your first job?
Yes.
That's hard to answer, honestly, right? Because my first job wasn't in sales. I graduated finance economics. My first job was in the Big Four. And then somehow...
Even worse, 3 a.m. no bonus.
Got bonus. Got bonus. But yes, 3 a.m. is normal.
So Big Four is the worst. Every time you go to the MRT at Raffles Place, peak hour, right? And you makan, you don't want to take the peak hour, 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, then you go, okay, I'm done with the gym, I'm going back. Anybody that comes up from the other side, right? Big Four. They're going back to office. Confirm, right? You go down here at 9, 10 already, finish your gym shot, going home. Then outside escalator, come up, Big Four. Big Four.
I was that guy, yes. So I will tell you though that my Big Four experience was I barely took the MRT because you're never in the office, maybe once a week or at 10 o'clock. And I'll explain why they go back to the office.
Yeah, please tell me.
But you go to client site. So from home, you go to the client site back home, right? And you can claim taxi back and forth. In fact, it got so bad. I had a friend that said, I'm leaving at 6 p.m. to take the train home because I want to be with people. So he purposely went on to peak hour traffic and just said, "Oh, people! Oh my God, people!" I am not joking with you. It was hilarious.
Corporate world drive people nuts, man. Like, whoa.
Are you gonna take your friend and
No, please. But it was hilarious. But after 10:30, you can claim cab from office home. So if I was near the office, people might just go back to the office, work until 11. Because either way, you're going home to work. So work, then take cab home. All right.
So you're coming from a relative view. So relative to that way of life, sales became a lot more attractive.
Yes. Honestly, I'm doing the same hours. I can pay a little bit more.
So consultancy is one step lower. Oh my goodness.
But the skill set is also very much different, right? I think what is less talked about in sales, like what you guys rightfully pointed out, is the stress as well. One thing about sales is that you, especially if you are working for someone else, like in your case, versus like a self-employed sales professional where you set your own targets. When a company sets those targets, sometimes there's that stress about not being able to meet that KPI, and then you're getting fired. And then your next employer, you go on for a sales job, they do a background check, they call up your previous employer, then your previous employer say, oh yeah, this guy never hit the sales target, so we let him go. And then that just, goes on and on and on and on. So there's always that constant fear and stress. What do you think of that, and how do you personally manage
the
it?
question is, why do you still go to the next sales job?
There will be some people who just continue in
You're saying
sales,
what a
right?
big can.
It's like buy BNPO lah. This one never kena buy
Let's
again
buy the
lah.
next let's go. Same industry, right? Direct competitor. It's like same product
Maybe
fee.
different industry.
Okay,
Like, it takes a
okay.
certain skill set to succeed in, let's say, pharma or bio sales. You need to have
Fair,
that knowledge. But even if you don't succeed, then
They
you
must
can
have
go
the
somewhere
vibe
else,
also.
right?
They must have the vibe,
It's the
right?
vibe, yeah.
I have a friend who does dental sales, right? And then he has the vibe, man. You must have the spectacle, everything. You must have the look, man. Right? You go in, you like, hey, to me, what I want to buy now? It's like, hey, no guy's gonna buy from
Go a
you.
singlet, tattoos down the
There's no
side.
guy's gonna buy from you. But if you go to the Wu Jing Tian downstairs and then you like that, it's like, boy, what you want? Right? Like, different shop for different folks. I think sales need to contextualize.
Then what's the
yes.
tech sales like? The t-shirt plus outfit, t-shirt and short, t-shirt and pants, right?
Stick in
Yes,
jargon.
Yeah, that's the tech sales jargon. That's tech sales wear. No, but that stress is real, right? That's why I said it's not even about the pay that you're getting, right? It's that stress of attainment. And if you're not going to attain it...
Because attain already, so don't need to care about attainment.
No.
It's like money's done. Now we look
but
at
you need-
higher order
True,
problems.
could be, right? But it's such a stressful organization or in sales, especially tech sales, because it's a higher fire mentality, right? US operates in that manner, and they have to grow their stock, right? Most of these tech sales guys are listed, which means every quarter they need to show that their numbers are getting better and better. And if it doesn't, like what we saw early this year, they have to make it better and better.
Yeah, then Budget Bay will write a very long post. They say like, this stock cannot
Sell
make
already
it.
lah,
Sell,
never
what you
increase the
doing?
revenue.
Horrible. Then now you talk, oh yeah, sales very hard. Then go back and say, very bad, this company not good.
Yeah. And I think that's something that you just have to accept in sales, right? I mean, you're close to the money. You make better money than probably everybody else in your level in that organization, but you also know all the risks that come with it. And as long as you're okay with the pros and cons, go for it, give it a try. See if that's something that you want to do.
So you think people should go for it as their first
I
job?
think it's a good experience, not as a first job. I think it's a good experience just to give you, you know how they say don't stay in one country for very long. Go outside, explore.
Eh? That's another episode.
I thought you pointed at me because I lived in many countries.
No, I'm talking about your viral shots,
okay,
right?
yes,
we'll put it
yes,
in the link below.
Yes.
Yeah, so exactly the same, right? You don't want to just keep in one job the whole time. Nowadays, it's so rare that you get someone staying in the company for 20 years.
Yeah,
So they
last
go
time,
and they go.
last time people take long service awards, like, wow.
Yeah.
Now it's like, wow.
Now it's like, 4 years are so long.
Why you still here, say? Haven't jumped. Yeah, correct. Different. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yeah, now back to the show.
Correct. And I think sales is a good experience, whether you do it in tech, whether you do it somewhere else. It's still something that you probably have to do because you're selling yourself every day. Right? Whether it be
Well,
an
I see a lot
interview.
of sales stocks, like you're selling yourself every day.
Is this the standard sales
this like the
mindset?
sales mindset, right? No, you don't think so? It's a sales mindset, right?
It is.
And the thing is, if you don't internalize this mindset, you cannot do it. You know what I mean? Like it is like a given. It's very hard to. It's like you want to play ball, then you don't swing, right? It's like, what are you doing, right? So it's like there's some internalized elements that people need to have to even to even be around in sales, right? So what are some of these things? Maybe you can lay us out with a bit more clarity. Like what does it take to be a salesperson? Even from things that people don't understand, because people already perceive some of these things, right? But what are some things that you don't see before you close the deal, or like what is the kind of like flow?
So based on what I observe across the better performing salesperson I've hired before, firstly is their ability to connect well with their customers. Of course, we were in B2B, but having said that, you still deal with a person after all. So able to connect with them at a personal level, trying to draw that commonality between the two of them, maybe looking at, oh, you got kids, hey, I also got kids, let's talk about, try to really build up that relationship.
See, that's why I don't like
that's
about
very
salespeople. That was so tactical. That was so tactical. Like behind, I feel like you really want to talk to me, or you want to talk to me for other reasons,
Which is honestly,
true,
if
true.
you're thinking that, it's not a good salesperson.
Fair, that's a fair
Right?
point. Yeah.
Which is very true, because sometimes all this information is also used in a way against the customer, trying to pull a fast one, trying to in a way pressure them to take certain decisions just because you have more information. And it's quite in a way, if you know the full story, you definitely feel quite shitty about it. And of course, for salespeople, it's like, it's just another Tuesday. So it's something that I think people have to be able to really just see it, look past it, and move on to the next day. But if they keep marinating in it, ruminate about it, so sad I just did that and all that, then sales is not for you. But those are the things that I believe salespeople need to do over and above the hours, the going above and beyond. Sometimes you also have to do things which is not within the scope of your work. I had a top recruiter even accompany the contact person of his client to go shopping. Yeah, because she wants his insights on some branded bag, because somehow the conversation got to each other that, hey, you like branded bag, I also like branded bag. I want to buy one, I want your opinion. That kind of stuff. So you have to do things like that. Is it a genuine support that, I want to help this person to seek out a good bag? I don't think so. He's trying to build up that bank account of relationship. So when it's time, hey, remember that time I helped you? Now you help me.
Which is fair, right? I mean, it's very hard to blame salespeople for selling, right? And using all sorts of ways, right? But as buyers, you must be a bit more segmok, right? Be a bit smarter, see if it works for you. But what is your hot take?
Same. So I'm B2B sales, right? And for me, it's over Zoom as well, right? So we don't meet people face to face.
Yeah, then don't need carry bag.
Shocking. Don't need to go and go mystery shopping. Mutual branded
Help me
bag.
buy NFT. Which NFT?
Hey, Zoom got NFT, right? Yeah, okay.
But one thing that I try and do, firstly, I feel this relationship thing is important, especially over Zoom. You need to build rapport within 30 seconds because I have only 30 minutes with the client. right?
So
30
is our
seconds, 1 minute, 2
rapport,
minutes.
is our rapport real?
30 seconds.
Yeah, you have to build some sort of a rapport, right? And I found the best way to build rapport is to be vulnerable. You be the first person to say something
Well, I
vulnerable.
tell you, bro, this month sales very jialat. I was like,
I have said that before to a client. Yes.
If I just need that one more deal,
Yes,
one more
I-
deal, then okay
Hey,
already,
like you
then I won't
treat
get fired
me,
anymore.
I have said that to a client.
yes. And it worked.
It works.
You really guilt trip a client to
No, I
sign
never
with
guilt
you.
trip. I never guilt trip. I say, look,
It's
it's
called
not.
emotional blackmail.
It's not. I'm not doing well.
You're tearing up,
whatever it
you're
is.
tearing
I
Then you
dropped
also
first
play
before the Zoom
BGM.
meeting.
Wow. No, but it really works. So what I'll say is, look, I'm not doing well. If you're looking close within this month, I'll do something extra. We'll fight for you. I'll fight for you.
Extra.
Yeah, a discount lah, not like other extra that you're thinking about.
No, these
Hey,
days the media
if I'm
landscape
in
a lot
Zoom,
extra.
Zoom do what?
Okay.
In extra can be, I send the
Control.
NFT to your house.
Yeah.
So I that's where it really helps, right? Because that's when you can build that rapport. You're being vulnerable, and when you build relationships, part of building that relationship is coming to each other in times of toughness and getting somebody else's comfort. That's genuine, right? I mean, if you're doing well and you say you're not doing well, it probably won't come off well also lah, right? So
That's true. There's a level of you help me, I help you lah. Because ultimately, the buyers also have a job to perform.
Yep.
Sellers also have a job to perform. And I remember when I was in 2003, when during SARS period. So for the younger listeners, SARS is the OG of
I
COVID.
just
Younger
realized that it's been around for so long that you need to like, clarify.
So I was working in an aviation company, sell airline spare parts lah. Obviously, nobody flew, so spare parts all just got stuck lor. And then we have to go to each airline, tolong lah, please lah.
Put it under your numbers.
Just buy in batch lah for next year lah, not for this year lah.
We
And they
fulfill
did
next
help
year.
us. So when it's their time that I need urgent goods lah, can you do a speedy delivery, express delivery? Of course, can. So those are things that also come into play lah.
absolutely.
Wow, but back to the build rapport within 30 seconds. That's a really tough job to do. I don't think I could build in 30 seconds. Do you have any tips for us on how to...
Your backdrop, very important, especially on Zoom.
Serious?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know my backdrop at home.
Oh
I don't
the
know.
friends, everything.
Yeah, immediately within the first
That's a
5-10
talking
seconds.
point.
Oh my god, I learned English watching Friends. Are you a big Friends fan? Right? Like immediately they ask me the question first. Next, my name is spelled differently than most Rakesh's, right?
I know, right? Every time I
Again,
have to
get the
clarify, hey, this one is the A and the E, like
I cannot find the contact.
yeah,
Type wrong.
because they autocorrect, but the autocorrect is wrong. Right? Because I got the right one, but it's the wrong one. You know, like, oh my god. Yes.
All right. So these things, right, are important. When you introduce yourself, always leave gaps. So
Like what
that
gaps?
anything that you want, right? Oh, my name's Rakesh. I work for this company, etc., etc. I live over in Singapore, but I sell to India, for example. And then immediately they'll be like, "Oh, are you Indian?" Like, and then they'll ask these sort of questions. Or, "Oh, I've been to Singapore last 2 weeks ago." Or, "I'm going to Singapore like four months from now," or something like that. So it builds up that rapport really, really quickly.
I mean, you could also have instances where you say that to the client and then the client just...
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, then how to build rapport?
Yeah. Then okay, this is a transactional sale. And then you continue.
Then you just go straight in. Okay,
Yeah.
so today we are here to talk about blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah,
Straight away upfront contract, which is this is what we're talking about. Any questions? Anything I'm missing? No.
So there are some cases you segment where it's more relational, and some others where you're like, I don't think this person wants to build any rapport, so I will just go straight to the deal
Yeah.
only.
And those ones, more often than not, could be the ones that will close quickly as well. Because where then in the call as well, you need to understand their motivation. Right? So my question that I always ask them is, when I'm being vulnerable, I'll be like, "Look, this is what I can do. I need your help here. But how can I make you look good in your organization?"
So the first qualifying criteria is whether they like friends or not. That's the main thing. You have to have a job.
Important. So I must go and choose a background. 招财猫 or something like that. Say, hey, 你招财猫 fan
Which means you need to do a bit of CSI before the call. What do they
Oh,
do?
change the
What is
background every single time you think of someone new.
in marketing term, there's this dynamic content, ma. You only push out whatever your client wants to see.
yes. Oh my god, all the industry people. I feel very dirty. No, but it's true. I mean, I also do that. I cannot lie to myself. I also do a lot of
Later
sales.
take some pomelo leaf, rub on you.
小灾解难
You know what? Another twist on this is that earlier on, so you said that people should go and try. It's a good experience. You were talking about the match or mismatch of character. For an introvert, then who wants to earn and get out of a financial rut, do you think it's worth for them to go and do sales? As they train, and they will probably become better at it. But in those initial few years, at least, it's going to be super painful. What's your take? Should they or should they not?
No, I got a hot take on this. Right, these days, right, sales may not be so direct anymore. Right, like there's a lot of other sales technique. Whether is it building a website or whether is it, affiliate links lah and all those things, right? And a lot of those things, right, don't need an extrovert one. The introvert one even more
point.
The introvert, then after that all the backlink every month just come in. The introvert go drink coffee, relax.
I think the way they approach sales successfully is very different.
very
Extrovert
different.
obviously would be, I would imagine, Shopee live stream.
Yeah.
Because they are so natural about it, right? But the introvert, and I follow quite a few who they basically create some digital product. And then, like you said, they'll write about it, they may tweet about it, they may just do a short course about it, and they're able to drive that virality in a very different manner lah.
Yeah.
It depends on what is their mode of distribution. It can be Twitter, usually not IG lah, because introvert don't do IG one. Or maybe LinkedIn, very long posts, those kind of stuff.
Laminate introverted.
No, but like even writing research papers, right? Like that is a big part of selling. You write the whole thing, you sell certain ideas and all that. So I think there are more platforms these days for introvert to sell.
It is,
That's
but
true.
at the same time, I know introverts that are amazing at sales. Yeah, face-to-face selling, right? It's
So how do they decompress after that? Do they marinate in the rejections?
Yeah, they could. Like, for example, even for me, right? Given that I'm apparently an extrovert, based on, all of these tests and all of that, even when I go home, there could be sometimes I tell my wife, look, I just want to just chill, watch TV and not talk.
I just want to pow.
Yes, effectively,
Don't
right?
talk.
Because
I
I've
want to talk.
talked too many hours in the day already.
Yes.
And you're wearing a hat. No matter how extroverted or introverted you are, you're still wearing a hat when you're in sales. You got to take that hat off. And so it's just learning how to decompress faster.
Well, then you're still not an extreme extrovert. I've seen people, right? The more they talk, the more excited. Their battery always 100% one.
Yeah.
So when you meet those people, especially in the evening when you're dead tired
I
already,
damn
and they're
scared
like,
of them.
no.
I'll be like, tiam. Enough, I don't talk already. yeah. But I understand that because I think I'm an introvert, right? Or at least I recover in silence, not amongst people.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't think I am because I'm great at what I do, right? But the idea here is, of course, because when you are on set, then you are doing what you need to do. Is a professional identity, right? You're being professional here. But out of it, then you're out of it, lah, right?
I don't think you're an introvert.
Yeah.
I think it's where the lines get blurred because now there are these things called extrovert, introvert. It's a mix.
Ambivert, right? That's what you're saying.
Ambivert, correct. So you're like, you can be an extrovert at work or wherever the situation calls for it. And then you go home and you decompress. And you're like, total, don't talk to me. I don't want to.
I think the spectrum is quite wide.
The spectrum is quite right. But to me, right, there is a sociable introvert one. Right. So I'm a sociable introvert, right? Because there is also not sociable extrovert called awkward. Right? So to me, you can learn these things you can learn. There are social parameters that you can copy.
And you're right, I think it's learnable. When I first started doing podcasts and when I play back and listen to myself, like, I cannot help but cringe listening to my own voice.
Yes.
But as you do more of it, just like going to gym now, the more reps, and after that, this weight is like nothing.
Yeah.
It gets better. Same thing when I did YouTube, talking head and all that. When I look at myself, I'm like, cannot lah, this video cannot. After a while, you don't even give a shit. Okay, can publish, move on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
That was exactly the way I was as well. I remember telling Reggie, it's like, hey, I cannot listen to myself right now. Can you listen? Tell me how to improve.
It's the same. It's the same. I do the same thing, right? But at this point in time, it's just what it is, right? Okay, fair. So whether sales is your first job, I think it boils down to the individual, okay? But maybe would like to ask all of you. Last question: do you have a career advice for everyone based on wherever you come from? It can be from sales. It can be from something else. Like give us a career advice.
I'll go first. So I think like when you see articles like these going viral, we have to remember that all articles are valid at different points in time. And like what you guys pointed out, tech sales have been on this wave in recent years. So it's easy and it's only natural that people can make such good money. But going into it now, like, you know, now it's tech winter, it's so difficult. You may go in with that misaligned expectation that, oh, I'm going to join tech sales and make $1 million, you know, and then you join him. And then later on, hey, why I never get $1 million, huh? Because it's not you, it's not the industry or your company, but it's just that, you know, the tide has left already gone. Now it's not as easy to make, right? It's no longer the $1 million days where all the digital companies were just like going up because now tech, I think now it's AI. Now go join AI sales. Maybe that's where the money will be.
Cybersecurity is a big one, actually.
Cybersecurity, right? So I think like people need to remember that when we read articles online like this. I think that often gets thrown out of the window and people only focus on 1 million. Wow, you can. I also can.
Oh, that's the worst myth. You can, I also can. That's
If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. Anyone, you can do it too.
So horrible. But yeah, come. Rob, career advice.
Well, I think for me is when you look at these sort of things, it's very myopic, right? So you need to take a look at the full spectrum. You know how there's this meme floating around Facebook and everywhere on the internet, how the number 1, number 2, number 3, and they're standing on a pedestal, and you see them facing the crowd, but behind it, you see all the sacrifices they have made. I'm sure we would have seen that before. You only see them standing. Nobody sees what they have gone through. Right? And I just put this forth to all the listeners as well. Bill Gates dropped out. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out. But how many other people have dropped out of college?
I also dropped out, but also jialat.
Yeah, I hate that example, you know. Every time in the past when my GP students write that in the essay, I will remind them, I will put big cross and I'll say, you don't forget, Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates had rich parents. And they dropped out, it's not from neighborhood schools, okay? It's from top schools.
Yes. Exactly. I mean,
It's so much
but we
of
only
it.
know them. Right? Who else have we dropped out that we know about?
And it
But it's
gets
also the
like blown
consumer's
out of
issue.
proportion.
Yeah,
Right? Doesn't
yeah,
mean that
correct.
you drop out means you can succeed. Because their level of dropout versus the rest of us is completely different.
Yes. And Zuckerberg dropped out because Facebook was already there, right? Yeah. And Bill Gates was busy writing out his mainframe coding, right? So same thing, right? Just because you see one person achieve it, you don't know what goes on behind it, the full story. So understand the full story, try and relate that back to you, what you want in life, and then make your decision.
Actually, you can just straight talk to someone, right? Like if someone wants to explore tech sales, talk to some people that are in tech sales. Don't just look at that one post and like, oh yeah, I'm going to do tech sales. And I also don't think most people do that. But at least you should go and like shop around and ask people in the same sector if you are exploring. Right? It's like how people talk to me about like doing podcasts. I'm like, no lah, don't lah. Don't lah. There are many other platforms that you can try. Don't play this. Right? Like just go somewhere else. Right? Okay, yeah. So I think that's the idea. Adrian.
I think in line with this topic, I think whether it's sales or customer service, I do think there's merit in gaining that communication skills when you interact with people, whether it's helping them to solve a problem, troubleshoot their computer, or trying to sell them something. I think this is something that, especially for the younger generation, they may not be so accustomed to, because when I had lunch earlier on at the nearby kopitiam, I see this table of like 6 very young kids. I think they having lunch up during work, and every one of them were not talking to each other. Everyone is on their handphone. So you can imagine younger kids also like that. Where do they build the communication skills at? Which I think is very important if you want to rise up within a corporate environment. Because you let's look at the modern day CFO. The old day CFO is just being counters only. Just know how to count numbers, make numbers, cook books. Sorry, not cook books. I mean,
what do you do in your company?
Who was your CFO?
So it's all about just number crunching, and it can be a CFO or FC lah. But modern day, you need to do storytelling. You need to talk to the board. You need to communicate to the board. You need to persuade people, etc., etc.
Capital allocation.
And I remember when SMU first started, right, I was invited to give a talk. And I don't know where I heard this from, but I was checking with one of the students who was an organizer. Hey, I heard SMU was created because the graduates at NTU, NUS, they can do, but they cannot talk. Is that right? Oh yeah, that's true. And for SMU, so you guys can talk but cannot do. Oh yeah, that's true. I don't know whether he misheard me or what, maybe I misspoken. But I think the genesis here is you need to be able to talk as well to communicate a big idea. Of course, it's good to have a blend of both lah. But the communication bit, I think ultimately when you go up the ladder, you reach a stage in your life where if you're as old as me, right, you just cannot put in that 12 hours a day anymore, that grunt work, then you have to do brain work law. You have to communicate that brain work law, and you have to start somewhere to build up that communication skills, and doing anything that require you to communicate with clients, whether it's retail lah, F&B lah, customer service or sales lah, would be very helpful lah.
Fair. Yeah.
What's your hot take summary?
My hot take is I just created podcast for those two angles. Right? So, serious, HubSpot is using me to create a show, Asia Growth Forecast. Please go and check it out. Right, so that is already published. We just rank on management, so that's great, right? So check out HubSpot's podcast, and there's also a CFO podcast that we just did called CFO Talks for Aspire. Right, so Aspire, the fintech company. So yeah, I just did what I need to do, sales. Right? So go and check out the other show, Asia Growth Forecast and CFO Talks. Make them rank, follow. Then I got more sales, right? So you're helping me with sales. Right? So,
Then you don't have to
It's like this career advice.
yeah, that's my career advice.
Follow me.
Follow, right? So yeah. I don't really have a lot of career advice, but I mean, maybe I've already shared a lot, right? So if there was one thing.
Listen to your previous podcast because you've talked about it there.
I mean, yes, for sure. But there was one thing I think, don't follow passion. Right. So I'm a bit more skeptical on this whole passion thing, especially after I've kind of went through all these things. I was like, passion, you got to starve, right, for passion, right? And then it is not wrong that if you're passionate about something, you are willing to go through more pain, right? And that's the genesis of the word, right? Yep. If you're more passionate about it, you will go through more pain for it. But if you want to be strategic and even talk about career as an advancement, we're talking about strategies, right? Then you got to position yourself a little bit better, right?
I read a joke recently about people who are passionate to become writer, and the joke is take the fish away from the person, and he'll be hungry for one day. Teach him how to write, he'll be hungry for life.
There is a writer's strike going on, right now, by the way. So.
That's another episode. We'll talk about it. Right. Thank you. That's all for today's show. Love it. Awesome.